the motherfucking game, wanna talk about the swag and the ice and the whips they dry. But a nigga like me getting bread, showing love, so the niggas don't respect my grind. It's going down, chasing the crown. Box up, be one of the illest around, like Justin Rihanna and Kanye. Nigga, I'm running the town. Slow it down, my vocals tight, so you can cut the. If you a dog, I'm Michael V. I take a nigga girl, I don't play fair. I take him to the bedroom, and they stay there. I'm gonna climb, give me mine, running out of time, money on the line, gotta shine, give it a look out when I try, won't stop. Vision in my mind, rockstar on top. Wait a minute, when a nigga really get it, I'ma go off. I gotta prove it to him. I think I'm MJ, moving.
I'm trying to eat, you trying to sleep. If you a dog, then I'm a beast. Go.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, misery bots of all ages, back again to tell you why you should be getting a Nintendo Switch 2 over the Steam Deck. But before I do, if you like that intro music, definitely check out the Adrian Rockstar SoundCloud in the descriptions below. Let's get it. Now, the number one reason why you want to get the Nintendo Switch 2 over the Steam Deck is because of that 7.9-inch 1080p 120 hertz HDR support screen. Now, the LCD screen for the Steam Deck is only 60 hertz with an 800p screen, and it does not support HDR. Now, the OLED screen, granted, it is an OLED, so it's going to look beautiful, has a 7.4 inch screen with an 800p 90 hertz refresh rate, and that does support HDR. But when you're talking about the Nintendo Switch, it has that 7.9 inch 1080p screen with 120 hertz built into it. The second reason why you want to get a Nintendo Switch 2 is because of those removable controllers that allow not only for you to be able to play the game, but allows for a second person to play with you. So off the rip, straight out of the box, the minute you get a Nintendo Switch, you automatically have two controllers that is packed into the Switch and that you will be carrying around with you at all times. So at any point, if you want to be able to play with somebody, you can literally hand them the other Joy-Con and be able to play whatever game you want to play with them. The third reason why you want to get a Nintendo Switch is for that built-in stand that complements the removable controllers. So what happens is when you remove the Joy-Cons from the Nintendo Switch, it's basically just the screen there. On that screen, on the back of that screen, is a stand that will allow you to basically stand up the Switch screen on any sort of surface. And then you'll be able to just sit back and be able to play the game either yourself or with a friend, because like I said, the Joy-Cons, each Joy-Con is its own controller. So you can literally hand the other Joy-Con to a friend or whoever is with you and be able to play basically whatever Switch game, multiplayer Switch game, especially if it has some sort of local kind of gameplay like a Mario Kart or Smash Brothers or something to that nature. Maybe even Street Fighter. Who knows? The fourth reason is that each Joy-Con doubles as a mouse, allowing for a device with a portable mouse. So basically, each Joy-Con is its own mouse. So instead, unlike the Steam Deck, you can attach a mouse, like a Bluetooth mouse or whatever, to your Steam Deck and use that. With the Nintendo Switch, it basically comes with a mouse built into it, and the mouse travels with you wherever you go. As long as you have the Joy Cons on the Switch, you basically have your mouse with you. Whereas with the Steam Deck, you kind of gotta make space for its own mouse and keyboard. So, well, its own mouse at least. The fifth reason as to why you want to get a Nintendo Switch 2 over a Steam Deck is because of the thin device that it is. It's no secret that the base Nintendo Switch was far more portable than the Steam Deck. Now, the Nintendo Switch 2 is bigger than the Nintendo Switch 1, but the Nintendo Switch 2 is still smaller than the Steam Deck. In terms of thinness, it's the same exact thinness as the regular Nintendo Switch. Now, I don't realize which one is smaller. I don't know which one is thinner in terms of the Steam Deck or the Nintendo Switch 2. They're both pretty thin device, but I will say that the Switch 2 will be smaller and more portable. The sixth reason as to why you want to get a Nintendo Switch 2 over a Steam Deck is the fact that the Nintendo Switch 2 has two not one, but two USB-C ports, which allows you to not only charge your device, but also connect another accessory to it, or you can just connect two accessories to it. So, for example, with the Nintendo Switch 2, you can literally be charging your Nintendo Switch 2 and then connect like a camera to it. Whereas the Steam Deck only has the one USB-C device. So you either have to choose whether you're going to charge it or connect something to it via the USB-C. Now, unless you're docking it. If you're docking it, it's a different story. But just straight out of the box, no dock or whatever, the Steam Deck only has the one USB-C, so you got to choose whether you're going to be charging that bad boy or you're going to be attaching an accessory to it. Whereas the Steam Deck, the Nintendo Switch 2, has the two USB-C ports, so you can literally charge and add another device like a Nintendo Switch camera. The seventh reason for why you want to get a Nintendo Switch over the Steam Deck, and this is kind of debatable, is the fact that when docked, the Nintendo Switch 2 can actually play 4K 60 frames per second when docked. Now, the Steam Deck can actually do 4K 120 and up to 8K 60 frames per second, 8K 60 frames per second, and 4K 120 frames per second on the Steam Deck. But Nintendo Switch 2 is actually going to be more powerful than the Steam Deck. So the likelihood of you being able to do 4K 60 on the Nintendo Switch is actually higher than the likelihood of you being able to do 4K 120 on the Steam Deck or even 8K 60 frames on the Steam Deck. Because the Nintendo Switch 2 is more powerful, the likelihood of hitting that 4K 60 is definitely more feasible on the Nintendo Switch 2. The Nintendo Switch 2 also allows you to play not only Nintendo Switch 2 games, but also Nintendo Switch 1 games. Now, via emulation, for the most part, you can play Nintendo Switch 1 games on your Steam Deck, but you're not going to be playing Nintendo Switch 2 games on your Steam Deck, at least no time soon. And like I said before, the Nintendo Switch 2 is going to be more powerful than the Steam Deck. So the Nintendo Switch 1 games are actually going to look and maybe run better on the Nintendo Switch 2. And in fact, the Nintendo Switch 2 games themselves are probably going to look and even run better on the Switch 2 than it will the Steam Deck. The ninth reason as to why you want to buy a Nintendo Switch 2 over a Steam Deck is the fact that games are actually going to be more optimized for the Nintendo Switch 2. You have to take into account like the Nintendo Switch 1 sold 150 million consoles. It's on its way to being the best-selling console of all times. Third parties are going to want to put their games on Switch 2, and developers are going to want to optimize their games for the Switch 2 to make sure that it runs well so that they can get so that the developers can make sure that they sell a bunch of games on the Nintendo Switch 2. So that is definitely one thing that is really beneficial to the Nintendo Switch over the Steam Deck, as games are not optimized for the Steam Deck. You have to optimize it yourself. Nintendo Switch 2 will be plug and play for the most part. You get the game and you just play the game, and that's it. You don't have to do anything on your end to get it to run any particular way. It's going to run great for the most part out the box. The 10th reason, which I believe is the 10th reason. I lost track. I'm sorry, y'all. Nintendo will still have cartridges and actually physical games. So if you're a fan of physical media, the Nintendo Switch 2 will still have physical media. When it comes to the Steam Deck, every game it has to be downloaded to the Steam Deck. The Steam Deck does not take physical media, whereas the Nintendo Switch 2 still take cartridges. Now, caveat, not all games are going to be on the cartridge. Where there will be some cartridges that actually have the game, the physical game, on the cartridge, there's going to be some cartridges that's only a key card or key indicator, which means you will still need an online connection and you will still have to download it, and that cartridge will only act as a license. So please be aware of that. That is a good thing and a bad thing, as there's still going to be physical media for those who like to collect games, but there is a caveat to it. So, but that's definitely something that the you can't do at all on the Steam Deck. And last but not least is going to be the pricing. Now, the pricing is $450, which is actually cheaper than the Steam Deck OLED, and in fact is cheaper than most PC handhelds. Granted, the Steam Deck LCD is cheaper than the Nintendo Switch 2, but for an extra $50, you got to understand with the Nintendo Switch 2, you're going to be getting a bigger screen, you're going to be getting a better screen in the 1080p, and you're going to be getting 120 hertz refresh rate with HDR support that the LCD Steam Deck does not have. You also have to take into account that the Nintendo Switch 2 is going to be more powerful than the Steam Deck. So for an extra $50, you're going to be getting more for your buck with that extra $50. So, with that being said, let me know in the comments below, which device are you going to get? Are you going to get the Nintendo Switch 2? Are you going to get the Steam Deck? I think I laid out some really good points as to why you would want to get the Nintendo Switch over the Steam Deck. But if you are leaning more on the Steam Deck, check in the comments below, in the descriptions below, for my video that I did in regards to why you should buy a Steam Deck over the Nintendo Switch. If you liked the video, like, share, subscribe, and again, check out the Adrian Rockstar SoundCloud in the descriptions below. Later.
Motivated. Some people let me get 'em. I know they hate it 'cause we winning and motivated. Listening and inundated with swagger. I'm trying to keep with my daughter to hear some bullshit. Not from Chicago, so don't talk to me about bullshit. Niggas in the motherfucking game wanna talk about the swag and the ice and the whips they drive. But a nigga like me getting bread, showing love, so the niggas don't respect my grind. It's going down, chasing the crown. About to be one of the illest around, like Jesse, Rihanna, and Kanye. Nigga, I'm running the town. Slow it down, my work was tired, so you can cut the if you a dog. I'm Michael V. I take a nigga, girl, I don't play fair. I take him to the bedroom, and they stay there. Give me mine, running out of time, money on the line. Gotta shine, give it a look out when I try, won't stop. Vision in my mind, rockstar on top. Wait a minute, when a nigga